welcome back to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. This is your host. I'm Susy Botello. And guess what? It's the countdown. You're listening to episode 199.
We are Fade into Film.
Hey, Yogi. How you doing?
Hey, boo-boo.
It's good to be back with you here on the Fade into Film show. I just mentioned this to you, but we need to make a little bit of obviously people can't see us dance. And not that anyone would want to see me dance, but this is our 199th episode.
Oh, damn.
We're just minutes away from the 200th episode. Isn't that awesome?
That is very cool.
I'm really excited. Guys, our 200th edition or episode, whatever. I think I was thinking about the film festival for a second there. Could you imagine that? The 200th edition of the film festival? I don't think I'll be around for that. Because that's
Who knows,
like literally
technology might be
a year.
So far up there that we'll live longer for 200 film festivals.
I don't know that I want to live that long. Might run out of topics and themes and adventures by then. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Wait, you think so?
Yeah. I mean, it's
actually
kind of like...
I have a weird tangent.
Oh,
before we start a real topic, if I could say that, so now that you mentioned that, you know how like people have theories where they believe that we are living in a simulation that a more advanced civilization has has enough processing power that we are basically just NPCs.
I've been thinking about this since I was like 5 years old, Joey.
Right. But but there's many reasons why there isn't. Right. Because if you really think about it, what's the point? Since this is also kind of like, related to movies. Right. If you think about it, why do people make period? Like if it so happens that we are a simulation. Right. Then we would have to be how do you call this? Like, I guess we are a civilization that is in the past. For the people that created our civilization, right?
Civilization was structured in the past.
No, I mean, but if we are a simulation, I'm saying that right now we would be in the past for the civilization that created us, right? Like they're looking at a time period that is not their own right now, right? So we would be like, I don't know, if it's so far in the future that they can create all of our stuff, then obviously we'd be. I don't know. We're the 21st century. That's what their simulation. But if you think about it, though, somebody made this. I forgot like the idea is that in a lot of media and movies, when we make period pieces because it reflects one, technology wise, it's because we could portray it better, and two, it reflects modern day problems or ideas or whatever, right?
The topics, the themes, the adventures,
right?
Yeah.
So, because that's why sometimes it's kind of weird to think about it that if we are in a civilization, right? Like there's stuff happening to them that is much more modern and recent to them that is far more interesting than what we're dealing with right now,
I don't
so
know.
That's why I don't think we're in a civilization, because like we would just it just follows the we would make like all of these movies of the past, but they always refer to like what we are now, right?
I see the emotional part of life, right? Mm-hmm. As we go through a series of different emotions, but that's limited. There's only so many emotions that we have, right? In our perspectives and our experiences and all these things. And I don't think our listeners planned on this, so let's end this quick here. But I think that there's only a series and then you got to loop again.
Right. It was just kind of like a movie thing, right? Like, if we were if our civilization was in a movie, that's it.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's kind of funny. I mean, in a deeper way, we could talk about this, and I love having conversations like this. And I think many of you guys out there probably do as well. It's just like when you hit play on this is probably not what you were expecting. So I wanted to talk about the other high quality factor to filmmaking. The one that a lot of other people talk about who are especially in the independent filmmaking scene, right? But we're in this niche, right, in the smartphone filmmaking world. And I think there's something that the connotation of smartphone brings up the technology right away. And we can be swimming in technology within 2 seconds because it's just at the forefront, right? It's like smartphone and then filmmaking in the background. But in the end, whether you're an indie filmmaker or a Hollywood filmmaker or whatever, right? It's really about, especially obviously in narrative film, it's about storytelling. And I think that that's what should really be at the forefront. And I know many of you agree with me on that. But I want to discuss that with you, Joey, and how we put all our resources towards a film, or how we can, that can share a compelling story that has a message, that can have an impact. We could put our resources towards that film that will be more than just entertaining, but it could be also entertaining and add value that can benefit your reputation as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, And I think there are you could be known for that, right? Like one of the directors that is very known for compelling stories is Steven Spielberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at E.T. Because it was such an emotional, I was just bringing up emotion in the other. See how everything connects, guys? The emotional scenes in E.T. But one of the things that I didn't know before, and I just read this a few days ago, was that E.T. was really Steven Spielberg's biographical story. Not the whole thing, right? But it was part of that for him because apparently his parents got divorced when he was a teenager. And he moved to California in a brand new high school, a brand new place. He didn't know anyone. And he was kind of like the outsider. And he was saying something about being the skinny kid with pimples and feeling, like he wasn't popular, right? And that is reflected in the story of E.T., which to me, I've always thought it was about friendship and loneliness and separation, like the scene when he goes to school, right? Mm-hmm. And E.T. is stuck at home and then they feel each other, right? Through the heart, because they're so well connected, but they're longing for each other at the same time. I just thought that was the cutest scene too. But anyways, let me ask you about that, Joey, how you see this.
I mean, as an indie filmmaker, and obviously it's not like I tend to do that more than me working in Hollywood. I suppose, I guess I could say that. I have ideas. I mean, it's not like, my film ideas aren't that revolutionary or anything. It's just that I think that there's many reasons why somebody like me would probably, focus on making movies, self-funded movies, indie movies, right? Because I think every one of us has, like what you said with Steven Spielberg, like he has a story that is very much close to him, and it's for literal nobodies. It's not like people would care. Like what our own personal stories might be, but maybe there are elements of it that people could relate to, right? And
Yes.
and and the thing is too, like, I know I write like I'm not a great writer, but the stories that I like to write are much more lighthearted, like kind of happy go lucky kind of things.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I don't want to say it's like slapstick, but it's the humor and martial arts, and there's some physicality in the acting that I ask for people. So yeah, martial arts comedy. That's so usually that's kind of like what happens, but it's it might not be the type of mood that a lot of people are looking for nowadays, but that's the thing that I want to make, right? Like I
Mhm.
still am my first audience, and I want to write something that makes me happy. And I know that there are people out there that also have the same uh taste in films
Mhm.
that I do, and I hope the things that I make also makes them happy, and that's really kind of why I do it. Of course, eventually I would love to make a riveting tale of something bigger than life type of story, right? But until I get there, this is really what I want to do, you know.
Or
And
even some of those bigger than life type stories have a connection, a personal connection
mhm, mhm,
to the directors and the writers, and you know.
right, has heart, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing too. I know, I know like films. I see films that people that clearly are not like they don't like that genre or they don't know anything, but they would just make it because it's I guess it's what's trending,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. And yeah, so and you can see how there's a difference for people when somebody loves a particular genre, right? They know the ins and outs of a genre. They know all of the tropes, all of just everything, like the little nuances.
Yeah.
And when they make that film and they put all their love into that film because they actually love that type of film, like people just feel it, right? And then there are some people that just it feels like they like they AI a script and they just film it, and it's like, oh, okay, without the proper research of what that genre might be,
It's
right?
about feeling the story that you're going to tell, right?
Yeah, like yeah, because like it. I don't even know how to explain it. Like I have like a weird analogy. I don't know if you would understand it though.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody out there who will, even if I don't.
Okay, like this, right? It's like when playing D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, right? I think it's more fun and there's more layers when characters and players mess up, right? Because then
Mhm.
there's actual uh like obstacles that people have to go through. And then, it's like the characters aren't just Mary Sue's and they're not just super powered and they go through everything. And by the end of the story, there's like layers that added on. And then people and like there's that it's a very specific. There's like a love in there after learning all of those trials and tribulations, right?
Yeah.
But when like a script just feels very everything just fits into place too
Mm.
easy for both like both production and the
Yeah.
storyline. It's like, oh, it doesn't feel like there's heart because it was just mass marketed like in a
I feel
like the story.
like that is the texture of the story, like adding
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
texture, right? As opposed to just having a smooth
Right.
surface, where you could just run your hands through and it's like, yeah, that's smooth, but it's the one with texture that's more intriguing and more interesting.
Right. Because it wouldn't be fun watching a movie like, oh, this is a horror film, and like, oh, at 45 minutes this is where they'll have the first plot hook, and
Yes.
it's like very formulaic and you get it, and like even if you're not a fan of that genre, you like feel it, and it's like, wow, that everything just kind of that was like too smooth. But then again, I guess that's also kind of a if it's a good movie, I guess it's a good movie. I guess that's what like those what do they call it now? Like the background Netflix movies, right? I guess if they're good and you could just listen to them and or like kind of actually I don't know. now that I'm saying that, I don't know. So
Yeah. Wait, what is this Netflix background? What?
Like how people just like say they're doing chores around the house, right? And they just kind of leave
Oh,
Netflix on. And that's actually one of those I guess like categories now. It's like one of those things that you just kind of leave on while
right.
you just do whatever, right?
I think
I don't know.
people have done that psychologically for a long time. For years, not just, I mean, years before Netflix, like people used to always have the TV on, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
what are you doing? Nobody's watching the TV. Yeah, I know, but it's there, it's in the background, you know.
Hmm.
Um, it's just something people do. It's a vibe, I guess, a mood setter. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't really get it. Sometimes you don't get to pick the shows that come out on a TV channel back then. Right now,
Yeah.
there's like I'll specifically put on this movie on Netflix
Right.
and just do whatever I need to do in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. One of the things that I wanted to connect to this was the artistic factor to this because I consider storytelling, and it's part of that, right? I mean, you could say the art of anything, right, Joey? I mean, there's the culinary arts, right? The
Hmm.
art of plumbing. Is there such a thing as the art of plumbing? Right? I have no idea, but someone out there is very passionate about plumbing and they'll just,
I'm
you
sure there
know,
is. There's
yeah,
always form and function, right? Even
yeah,
in coding, right? Like you can code messy,
yeah.
but there's a way to how do you call
And
it?
I think
Like
that's what
form
art
it.
kind of, it's kind of like that passion that you feel, no
Mhm.
matter what it is that you happen to be doing. And that's how you connect it to this is my art, this is my passion, in a way, I suppose. And I think that independent filmmaking always has that artsy connotation because it is independent. You have more control that you can do that. And I think that telling stories that we only can tell as independent filmmakers, right? It's
Mhm.
only us who can tell this story. Yes,
Hmm.
pretty much everybody's been in love. Everybody's had a breakup at some point. Everybody's had to suffer through this or to be elated over that. Things like that, right? It's not 100%. Don't forget, I'm always telling people this. Nothing is just black and white, and I'm so never thinking that way. But it's easier to share a story that only you can tell best because I feel like you've experienced it and it comes from your own perspective. And now we have this capability. Guys, you have the ability to tell those stories instead of just going out and watching a movie and then connecting that story to your own. Now you can do the complete opposite and flip that because you have the phone, right? The camera, and you can use it almost like I've referred to this before as a window through your eyes. You're behind the lens, right, in a camera, but behind the phone, you're really behind the window, looking through it at your perspective on how you see the world, how you see a particular situation, and how you can turn that into a story. So basically,
Mhm.
if you do that, if you
Right.
concentrate on that, instead of the technology, the gear, the apps, and all those things, you're probably going to have a better chance at having a good film than someone who is only focusing on just the gear and the tech and the apps and these things that are constantly changing.
Right. Because I do notice, so like most of the time the people that just focus on gear, they understand the technicalities of making a film, but like the actual execution of telling a story, that's outside their realm, right? But
Yeah,
I
because they
think though,
probably need the story because,
yeah. Oh, that's the thing there,
oh,
right? If you could partner up, if you as a filmmaker can partner up with somebody who is more tech,
yeah,
right? And if obviously both of you guys need to work with each other because I've met also people who are tech that like, yeah, but we shouldn't film it that way, and I'm like, but how I wanted to portray that idea, right? You know what I
Because
mean?
it's
Like,
your view, your perspective through
right?
your eyes, how you see it.
Yeah, like, but like the creative part might be if you have a technical person that can understand your creative vision and actually, interpret it and
Yeah.
like execute it the way that the best of your idea, like, then you would have a good team. But yeah, like,
Yeah, I think part of this is obviously like with any film that you want to kind of team up with people
mhm,
to bring the different parts together. Especially, here's the other thing of this too, though, Joey, is that
mhm,
because it's such a story that's so close to your heart, you see it in a way as that big story, right?
mhm,
And you want to bring it out. You become very passionate about it.
mhm.
And all of a sudden, it's not like, oh, this is my story of something that happened to me when I was a kid. But I think what was the name of that movie where the kid gets locked in that attic and he reads the never ending story?
Oh yeah.
Like that was such a cool film, such a great story that obviously that didn't happen in real life. But imagine that you had a situation like that happen to you and you got very creative with it. And now you're going to share it in this form, right? You don't have to
Mhm.
use like animals and make believe and stuff like that requires CGI and things like that. But actually, here's something. There was a film that was that won second place at our film festival in 2013. It was
Mhm.
shot with an iPhone 4S. Let me do this really quick because if I'm going to name their film, I need to get their names right. But they shot a film, right, with an iPhone.
Mhm.
They edited the film with iMovie. And they did all the Foley effects and everything that had to do with audio, the music, everything with GarageBand.
Mhm.
And basically, it was like a film that they got up and that night before or something like that, they decided to make.
Mhm.
Gregory Armstrong and Elise Anderson, okay, is the film. And they had these little they gave me one of them at the film festival. I thought it was cute. It's this young woman, right? She wakes up to her stuffed animals that she makes, right? Or made. I don't know if she's still doing that now.
Mhm.
And she was selling them. And they wake her up and she goes in the closet for whatever reason. They lead her into the closet and they slam the door shut and they lock her in, right? And
Mhm.
it was just so creatively done. Turns out that they were in the kitchen messing up the kitchen, creating this big breakfast thing. And then they let her out. And they were making her breakfast. And it was
Oh,
so cute, right?
that's wholesome.
I know. And that's the thing. It was such a cute little story with
Mhm.
the sounds and these little animal sounds that they were making and using GarageBand to alter the pitches of their voices and things like that. Oh, it was just like the cutest little film. And of course, it won second place, right, for
Mhm.
the short films. And like, you don't really need CGI or anything like that because there's the theater of the mind, right? But there's
Yeah.
still a lot that you can do. I mean, there was these, they were tossing these little stuffed animals up in the air, on the bed and stuff and going, wee, and, making these sounds. And
That's
it was
cute.
just like, it was really cute, but it had the right effect. And it was done very well.
Mhm.
I mean, I think if we think about it, like, we don't really always need a technical person, but it just depends. Like, do you want to move your audience? Do you want your audience to feel like the audience felt when they watched that movie? Like, I've just shared that little movie with you, and Joey was like, "Ah," right?
Yeah, I like happy. I like happy films. It sounds, that
Yeah,
sounds cute, right?
yeah. And so, do you really need all the bells and whistles to create that? I'm just trying to
It
somehow
does help
inspire
though.
people. It does help, but I'm also trying to entice people and inspire you because If you've never made a movie before, you may think it's complicated. You may not know people in your life that are into this stuff. And going out and seeking people, for some people, if you're an introvert, right? You're not going out looking to network with filmmakers for the most part, but you might have a story that's close to your heart that you think, I may want to share that and make a film.
Right.
I was at an event, Aaron Nabus, our brand ambassador for the film festival, he put on his event, the Film Creator Con, this last weekend. And there was this kid there, this little kid, and I was talking to him, and his dad, was there too. And it was about, they had just watched The Terminator, right? From the original one from 1984. And I was telling him, it's kind of cool that film was made in 1984, way before you were born, right? By this director, right? And these filmmakers and actors and all this stuff. And now you, a century later, practically, you get to watch it and it excited you and you loved it, right? And I said, imagine that you take a story and you made a film, and who knows, because you're a kid now, but when you grow up and you're like 34 years old, you'll realize that, or maybe show your kid or whatever, that once you make that movie, it's there forever,
Right.
And isn't that like the coolest thing that you can use? I mean, even for a kid to just pick up the phone and do that and share that story. But it doesn't have to be a kid. It could be, if you're out there right now and you're thinking, I like listening to this. I like hearing about filmmakers and things like that, but I just don't see myself as a filmmaker. But everybody's got stories, and even if you make it for nobody but yourself, the experience of making a film, Joey, what's the best thing you like of making the film?
I think for me, I remember before when making films or making videos really with friends was kind of, I thought about it. It's like one of those things is that, once I'm in my deathbed, I don't have to try to remember good memories because I've documented them all. Right.
Yeah.
And just making stories with friends, and I kind of like, I love that. Right.
The social part of it, kind
of. Social part of it. I mean, obviously, it's seeing the stories and having it's also the feeling of creating a work that it's very challenging, very like it's a lot of obstacles to
the
create
accomplishment.
The accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
Of doing something hard makes you just feel good as well as when you do it with a group. It kind of. It's like a team. You build like this bond, like, hey, we went through like the shit together kind of thing, right? And it just feels good, and that's the type of memories I want to build with people, anyways, right? The group that I have. So that's one thing, definitely.
Because that's
because like with the original topic that you're talking about how like the stories that indie filmmakers probably would make something that is like off the cuff a bit more, because it's when you have no one else you have no money people to answer to, and you're just making your own stories, right? Like right now, I've been working on this feature film for like 2 years, kind of like it took me a year to plan and 2 years for us to like kind of work. I'm still on it. I should be able to finish it, but because of work and all that stuff, I haven't been able to like really just have time for it. And like Steph was actually kind of was like gave me some harsh talking like a couple days ago. She's like, hey, I feel like you've been procrastinating on this. It's because I don't know why. I feel like you're afraid to finish this thing. I'm like, yeah. so and and it's a story that is very much, it's not something you would see in Hollywood, right? It's
Right.
it's very personalized. It's a feel good thing. It's a coming of age story for a uh, of age story for almost midlife crisis kind of thing, you know. So it's a
We were talking about E.T.
mhm.
That's funny. So Steven Spielberg didn't really think that much about that movie. Like when he made it,
Mhm.
like he kind of was kind of like, well, so are you going to, basically your story, like, are you going to make this or not? And finally he said, all right, fine, and he made it.
Mhm.
And it turned out to be,
Yeah, like a super influential movie for.
yeah.
I get it. That's why I just got to do it. Well, I mean, I've been doing it. I'm at like 80, probably like 89, 90% done. And the last 10%, I could
That's the
finish it.
hardest.
Yeah, it is. It's the like I haven't touched it for a little bit because of all of the work that's been coming our way, and like just coming back to it. I'm just wondering, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest because it's like, this is the it game at the end, basically. And then it's done. And then I got to
Yeah.
eat it or something, right?
Right. There's always that fear, I think, of like I think there's that breakup period. I always say like after you finish a film, like
Yeah.
you need that time to also kind of heal because like if a project has been something that you've been with for like certain amount of time, and usually for feature films, I mean that's a long time, right?
Yeah.
And then once you finish it, it's like there's a breakup period and you need to like heal from finishing your film because you just had to let go of an idea that's something you were passionate for a given amount of time.
It's a
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
when you reach the destination, it's like, whoa, because you know what they say, right? It's the journey, not the destination. So when you finally reach the destination, it's like, oh man, the fun
Mhm.
part is over.
Right.
you know? Yeah.
And I think that's a the sign too of what type of filmmaker it is. If they're like feeling bad that their movie is done, oh, they really love making the movie. But then you have those other filmmakers that are like more the producer filmmakers. Like they don't care about the process; they just want it done, and they just live in the moment. Like, and they just market that one movie for like 10 years of their life. Because
Yeah.
that's the. So I get it. I get it.
I don't know if I get that part, to be honest with you,
Like, I
because
mean,
it's
I
like,
don't get it, but I see it.
right. I mean, I can understand everybody has their own motives, and their own expectations and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think one of the like, so I have made a film myself.
Mhm.
There are like probably 4 films that I've been wanting to make forever. And I feel like it's not about giving up on it or anything. It's just like, I feel sometimes that, I mean, you only have so many hours in a day, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And my calling, the thing that I really love doing is like what we're doing now and running the film festival and that entire journey, right? That just keeps going. I really enjoy that. But at the same time, there's this other part of me that would just love to see these stories turned into film. One of them I actually dreamed, beginning to end, And so if I was going to make those into film, let's just say one of them, I would want to put so much of my expectation of what that would be would probably be like monumental in my mind
Mhm.
because, oh, I finally get to do this. And it's been with me, inside me for so long that I finally get to do it, and then I'd probably ruin it because you have this expectation, right?
Mhm.
And then you're going, you get stubborn You know, it's one of the, I mean, you have to be stubborn to make movies in a way.
Oh, got to, definitely.
Yeah. But there comes a part during that stubbornness where you risk blowing it up, right? And breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, that's actually, it's happened a lot. It's why we say, you know, if you actually finally completed your film, you've succeeded. Big time.
I agree. So yeah, I guess it's that, right?
And that's what's kind of you're going through, because now you're at the point where like completion.
Yeah. It's like while a film is still unfinished, there's still a possibility of it like being the best film ever made type of feeling, right? Because the moment I export and that's it, right? That's like the final thing.
Yeah.
That's the real life interpretation of this vision that I had, right?
And that's all it can be, right?
Yeah,
because it's done.
Or you know, for at that skill, it puts the period in the sentence that shows like my skill level at that very moment. Like all of the good things that I did and all of the bad things that I made mistakes on making this film, it's all there now, right? And I can't, and I that's why I know a lot of people like to re-edit their past work and stuff like that.
Yes.
My gosh, I don't know.
Well, I think it not so much the. Well, yeah, actually, I mean, how many director's cuts are there, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, our friend Levi would keep editing, but that's also an art thing right there. Myself, right? Like, it's even with graphics designs, there's some art to it. I mean, there's graphic arts and there's graphics design, but there's still art involved in that. You have colors and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But there's so much to manipulate. It's never really done until you have that. For me, it was like the deadline. The deadline said, okay, that's it, done. You can't do the 300th version of this, you know, because they want it now. So you have to give them what you got.
Right.
And it's the same with film. It's the same with every art, right? That a work of art is never really complete, you know, because from the artist's perspective, it can always be, everything is art. Even that thing that you've already created is art.
I think it's because also, you know, when you have something that's like or you already made, you usually have all of your raw footage and all that stuff. It's a lot easier to just re-edit it than try to make a new film because that takes way more resources, way more money, right? So
yeah. So to cycle back, this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think circling back to this, it's about connecting to seeing the story, and I guess almost in a way just chill someday somewhere, you know, and just kind of think about scenes from your life, moments that mean something to you, and then pick one and explore it and go into it with a creative mind and say, what is the story behind this and what this means to me? You know, why does this mean something to me from that time to now? And to maybe, if I analyze it a little bit, what does that mean? And then turn that into a story that can kind of have its own message that can connect with people. Because in the end, we're all the same, right? Talking about emotions. We all feel sadness and happiness. And so if we can turn one of our close stories that are close to our heart, like we really can't fail with our storytelling. Is it connecting with you, Joey?
It makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Right. Because like, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a story, then what are you making a movie of, right?
Yeah. I just think we can make up stories off the cuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think those good stories are the ones that we tell, that it's like telling somebody else's stories is okay too.
Right.
But as long as you connect to that story and tell it through your perspective, through your eyes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that's done a lot as well. Guys, don't forget that we're still open, and I mean open, to you submitting films for the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego. Well, do you have any last words? Like, how would we wrap this up in a way?
I mean, a lot of the things that we always kind of promote here is that, like, pick up, if you have a story, pick up the phone and shoot it, right? Because it's the most easiest way right now, and the world kind of needs more stories.
Yeah,
like it's a way for us to connect. Like, the funniest thing is that, how there's so many ways now for us to connect with everyone around the world with our stories, and but instead technology is kind of just pushing us to, like, work more, work harder, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, I think showing the world your perspective, whether it might, whether it's shared by a lot of people or not, is still kind of nice, right? Like, seeing another perspective, right? We all have our own universes inside of us, and I'm sure there's a great story to tell there, right?
Yeah, there's something about our personal stories that we think they're just ours, and it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to share that, if anybody else even thinks this or knows what I'm talking about here or anything. And then there's always the surprise, right? Oh my God, look at all these people actually could connect with this and have experienced something like this.
Right. Well, I think that's good. Yep.
Say goodbye to our listeners, Joey.
All right, guys. See you guys next episode.
Thank you.